As you guys know, we've been doing our Connect services, our Connect videos on Sundays, and really working on having our Sunday small group gatherings, and so we've been kind of transitioning into that and experimenting with that. Some of us are still on occasion watching the regional service, the Orange County regional service, and I know that service has been so helpful since we went into quarantine and the region had to kind of figure out how do we do all this together. We were able to make that work, which is really, really cool. And but starting on not starting, but we're actually going to be phasing out the online regional service on Sundays. And that there's going to be 3 more of those. And so May 2nd will be the last Orange County regional service that happens on a weekly basis. We might do it, for special events from time to time, but for the weekly service, that's going to be phasing out. So for the South, we're going to continue with our experiment of having our small groups gathering on Sundays and sending out the Connect videos and doing that. So that shouldn't be too big of a problem for the South, unless you have not found a small group that you're actually meeting with and all you've been doing is watching the regional service. So if that is you, then that regional service is going to go away. And this is a great opportunity for you to get involved with a small group and to find a group that is right around you, find people that want to meet, and maybe just connect with some friends of yours and say, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about the Bible together and spend some time together. And so that's our goal for that Sunday gathering. So that is going to be transitioning out on May the 2nd. So does everybody get that? I think everybody's got that. We got three more Sundays if you are watching those. If you're not, we're just going to continue with what we're doing, and everything is going to be great with that. So with all of that said, I actually wanted to just, remind you and talk about our Sunday gatherings a little bit. I really do want to help make sure that everyone has found or is finding a great small group to connect with and spend your Sundays with and to go through life with. And so, many of you I've been talking to, we've been emailing back and forth, you're emailing with Tracy, and we're trying to make, get some of the people who have not yet landed, we're trying to find some situations that could work. And we would love to give some suggestions or give some, advice and direction and maybe help connect some people. So if that is you, or if you know somebody who just feels like that they haven't found a situation that's working for them, please speak up, be vocal, be persistent. We really do believe that by having great, small, connective groups of people that can do church together, that can go do life together, that this is going to be a great way to bring Jesus into South Orange County. And as we're getting closer and closer all the time to being able to have in-person gatherings, and so there's different churches are doing it in different ways. I know that even the Central Orange County group is going to start trying to have some meetings, more meetings at the church building, even as we phase out the online services. But there's still a good number of people who are not yet comfortable meeting in person. And so we're trying to meet all of those needs. But for us in the South, I think developing these small groups, I'm really excited about it. We've been having a great time with our group on Sundays, which has been really cool. We had some, the dog is barking. We had some great people come out to Easter service, which was cool, and we're continuing to build relationships there with some people. And so I just want to encourage everybody to be looking at these groups like, okay, now that we've met, and now that we've figured out how to do that on a Sunday, and now that we've figured out how to watch the videos, I think the next phase for us, the next stage, is to go, okay, so now how do we start to invite our friends, and how do we start to bring people into this? It's been really cool. I've been hearing Tina Chires up in North Orange County. She just posted on her Nextdoor app that, hey, there's a women's Bible study that's going on if anybody wants to join. And immediately, like within an hour, had, I don't know, about a dozen people that were like, I want to be in a Bible study. I want to be in a Bible study. So they've been having these weekly Bible studies. And then there's been people coming to church because of that. And so that's it's a great thing that you could do. Michelle Pellizzari, and here in Ladera Ranch, she kind of posted like a poll on the Ladera Ranch Facebook group about, hey, if you were gonna, have a small group, church service on a Sunday morning, what time do you think would be the best time? And so we're getting people to respond to that. So I think that we can use even, maybe social media or the Facebook group for your neighborhood or next door or something like that, even to be able to see if there are people who are wanting to connect. So, I just want to encourage you to do that. I want us to really start thinking about how can we find people, or even reaching out to old friends, maybe people who have stopped coming to the Orange County Church of Christ. Maybe they're going somewhere else, but maybe this could be a great time to say, hey, we're doing something new and cool with our group, and we would love to invite you to be a part of it. So it's just getting into that mindset of how can we bring what we have to other people, which I think would be really cool. Also, then as we're moving into, getting used to doing this on a more regular basis, and you're getting used to watching the videos and having discussions about it, I know that, some people can be really comfortable with that, and it might be difficult to figure out, how do I lead a discussion about this, or how do we have this, and then the fear takes over, and then anxiety, and then we all just shut down or whatever. But it can be really cool just to hear what some other people are doing. And so I actually heard that Coco Stambeck led a great discussion in their group a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to ask her if maybe she would just share a little bit about what that process was like, and kind of what happened in their group and how the conversation went. So, and then maybe this would help stir some, help everybody else just to get some ideas, or to go, oh yeah, that could be cool, we could do that. So, Coco, would you mind sharing with us what that was like?
Thanks for letting me share. Actually, when Mary asked me if I could share, I'm like, I don't know what I would share. But so I've been thinking, okay, well, what was my process? So what happened was, in our group, I'm in Mary's group, and it's been growing, and there's several women there, and some are, have been around forever, and some are new, and some are visiting. And so I was trying to think, how do we meet everybody's needs who's coming? And then I know there's some people who may have watched her video and some who may have not. And so how do we do all that? And so what I did is, and I don't think we can really top what you do. So I thought, I don't want to just repeat what you do. So what could I do? So what I did is I just said, okay, what did I learn from this lesson? What was most impactful to me? And how can I highlight Jesus? And so that's what I did. I took what you guys taught, and then I broke it down into 3 different things that impacted me about Jesus. And then I asked a lot of open-ended questions. I think that was the biggest thing. It was very interactive, and it made people think, and there was a lot of great open sharing too. So I think that was, if I could encourage anybody, is that to ask a lot of open questions to get people thinking and participating, and have them process what it would have been like for them. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I did.
That's really cool. Can you give us like an example, like what kind of open-ended questions?
Well, I did the lesson on the one that you did about not wanting to, right? So then that was a natural question to ask. When have you ever been in a situation you didn't want to do something? And then what I did is I broke it down into three steps. One was, it's okay to be real. So Jesus in the garden being so open and honest with his emotions and with his with the disciples. So we talked about what it's like to be real and open and honest, and when is it hard to be honest with God, and what emotions are hard to share, with God or with others. So we did that. And then we talked about Jesus showing us the way that we can actually work through difficult emotions if we trust in God, and have that not my will but your will. And so we talked through that and asked questions about that. And then the last part was God is the answer. And so how with God we have a voice, with God we have a place to be safe, with God we can have the strength to overcome. And then so that's what I did. I just broke it down and then had everybody share, and there was great open sharing. So
That's so cool. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for sharing it tonight too.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Mary, do you want to, I would love to hear your perspective in sitting there and hearing, Coco lead the discussion. What was that like for you?
Well, I told her afterwards, I was like, doggone it, I wish I had video recorded this because I just felt like I woke up that morning and I knew that a woman was coming and she had, I didn't know she was coming until she texted me that morning. So I knew she hadn't watched the video. And so I was like, what are we going to do? Like, if everything is completely, because you watched the video but it was just like God took care of it all. And Coco, I think just what people didn't want to do was great. It was a great non-threatening question. And then how she just kind of led us through it was just very powerful. And so, for the people who had watched the video, which was great, I think it brought it home more for them because we discussed it. But then for someone who maybe didn't even know what we were talking about at that point because they hadn't, known about it yet, I think they still came away with feeling really, I know they did, really encouraged and feeling like, wow, this really helped me. So anyway, she did an amazing job. Like I said, I wish could have recorded it so everybody could see it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Thanks just for, yeah, letting us know how it went. It is a different thing, that you watch a video beforehand and you get there, and what do you do if you have a guest? So I think being able to kind of go back through it like that and give some highlights. Here's kind of the main point that we're talking about. Hopefully, everything is fairly easy to communicate and relatable, on that level that you can, at least be able to kind of recap. So, and what we've done in our group, I just usually say, hey, who did get to watch the video? And so that gives me an idea of how deep of a recap I need to do. Sometimes I need to go, really deep if it's, if there's a lot of people, or sometimes I can just remind people we were talking about this story. And then this was kind of the question for us today. So yeah, so it can be set up. So even if you have somebody who hasn't seen it, you can still have a great discussion with that, which I think is really good. So, all right, now I can't see any of you, so I get no feedback. I'm believing that you're still with me. Okay, so I just wanted to follow up, kind of on what we're doing here in our midweek series and what we started talking about last week. We're talking about this festival of first fruits, and this was a festival that God instituted, for the Israelites when they were, first becoming a people, and they're in the desert and moving into the promised land, and just a way for them to really acknowledge the providence of God and how awesome God is, and praising Him for the early harvest and trusting that He would bring in the later harvest as well. And but then it's this time between Passover and then when actually Moses went up on the mountain to receive the law. And so then you fast forward for the Christians, and then it becomes the time between the resurrection and Pentecost. And so it's just kind of cool to see all those things come together. And I know last week I overwhelmed you with all kinds of information and all kinds of background and all these different things. As you are getting to know Tracy and I, we apologize in advance because we geek out on these kind of things, get really excited about it, and we know that we can be really intense and come up with crazy ideas. But I think it's pretty remarkable just to be able to look at what God did and how He does things and how He brings us through these times and gives us these incredible holidays to actually go back and celebrate the things that happened, and not just what holidays have become now in our 21st century world, that we celebrate Easter by taking a day off, or you celebrate President's Day by getting a day off of work, and you celebrate Christmas by going to visit family. But it's a different type of holiday where you are engaging your spiritual life and your spiritual growth. So we looked at this verse, Galatians 5:25, since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. And so during this time, these 50 days, we really wanted to be able to focus on what is the Spirit doing in our lives and how is he helping us to grow. And so what I asked you last week was just to kind of identify what is something that you want to be growing in and you want to be set free from. And is it a foothold in your life, or has it become a stronghold? And what are some things that you need to do? And we got all excited about the 49 different things, and I put them up there, and all the, the because of the 40 in the Jewish tradition, there's the 49, positive traits that you think about during this time. And then I asked you to just kind of identify what did you want to grow in, and then share about it in your group, and then commit to pray for each other daily. And these are things, honestly, that really just Christians should be doing all the time anyhow, is, identify, like, how do I want to grow? What is God going to change in me all the time? And how is he transforming me? What am I overcoming now? How am I growing now? And then asking us just to pray for one another, which, we're already doing that. And then just the idea of counting up the days. So, as we're going through the 50 days, being able to do that. And in some discussions with a few different people over the last week, I definitely can feel, there were some people feeling like, man, it's been a lot, and feeling like there's a lot of information coming at you. Now I've talked to other people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is really cool. And I'm really excited to be growing and changing. And this is what I'm working on. And so there's a whole gamut of feedback that I get from people about kind of what we're doing. But I wanted to pause because I don't want to move too fast. And I know that, like I said, we're still getting to know one another. And so as we're getting to know one another, I want to be sure that you understand me when I speak, and that you hear my heart. And that you understand, kind of how Tracy and I are viewing this whole process that we are leading the church through. And I don't want to move so fast where things feel confusing. And I also don't want it to be a situation where people feel overwhelmed. And so I think it's really important that you're able to kind of hear, how I'm feeling about this. So this is what if you're feeling great about everything and you're excited about it, awesome, just stay there. But if you might be feeling overwhelmed, or feeling like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on, or frustrated with what we're talking about, I totally get it. So here's what I want everybody to do. Just breathe and take a breath. And I'll try to speak a little bit slower tonight if I can, which is sometimes hard for me to do because I get excited. But I just want everybody to kind of take a breath, and let me explain to you. I think over the last couple of weeks, I know that as we were going into Easter, and it was Holy Week, and we're sending out daily devotionals for Holy Week. And people can feel like, oh my gosh, there's something I'm supposed to look at every day. And then if you can't get to it every day, then you feel like I'm not doing what the church is doing, or I'm not doing the devotional. And then you feel guilt because I'm not doing it. And then you get the next email from me the next day, and you're like, and now I can't even read this one. And now I even feel more guilt. And it just starts to add up. So then all these things are going on. And then you get to Easter, and then you're mad because, well, they just gave me too much stuff to think about. So you can't even focus on Jesus because you might get mad at stuff. So here, I just want you to know, in my mind, how I was viewing this whole process of leading up to Easter and the daily devotionals is like, man, here's some cool resources for you if you have the time. And that honestly is how I was thinking about it. I've been, as we were kind of, talking about Lent and the 40 days leading up to Easter, I got on like two different, I was going through programs, one with I think it was Biola's Lent program, and then I was doing the Dwell Lent program. And so every day I would get these two emails from both of these groups. And I would get up in the morning and I would see both the emails. And sometimes I would look at one of them and look at what they had. And then other times I'd look at the other one. Sometimes I couldn't look at either. And then I would just delete the emails because I was like, I don't have time for it today. But on the days that I had time for it, it was actually super helpful. And it was always what God knew that I needed to be able to see. And so the resources were there for me, which I thought was really cool. And that was honestly what we were thinking about as we went into Holy Week, was we wanted to just provide, the church with some resources. So I think that, for some of us, we did our whole LED series earlier this year, and we were trying to deconstruct and, how do we view leadership and how do we view evangelism and discipleship? And just, I think some of us are trying to deconstruct how we actually interpret our experience within the church. And you can hear something and then you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And so then there's a lot of pressure. And if you can't get to it, if it feels overwhelming, then it's easy then to be resentful of the person who actually asked you to do that thing in the first place. And so it can just create a really unhealthy, dynamic. And so, but that's the last thing that I want for this church. And it's the last thing that I want for any of you. And what I really want is for every single person in this church to feel great and inspired about their relationship with God, to be able to move forward with the church at the pace that makes sense for you, at the pace that God wants you to move. I do want you to be moving forward. I want you to be making progress, but I know that not everybody's going to move at the same pace. And we're all going to be able to do this, at our own pace as God allows for us to do it. So what I'm not going to do is stop calling you higher and stop trying to help you focus on Jesus and help you focus on how much God wants you to change and the power that is available to you on a daily basis to overcome the sins in your life and overcome fear and overcome anxiety and overcome issues and let Jesus actually move you and change you. I want you to be excited every day about the things that are going on in your life. And so I'm going to continue to always do that. I think I would also say Easter is like the most important holiday in the Christian faith. There is nothing more important than celebrating the resurrection. And so if I get a little bit excited and overwhelm you with some spiritual food around the Easter holiday, I'm kind of not going to apologize for that either, because this is what we should be really, really excited about. But with that, I just, even with the counting up of the Omer, so full confession here, and maybe this will help you. I have not every day gone, okay, this is day 49. Okay, now this is day 48. This is day 40. Or no, we're actually counting the other way, aren't we? Yeah, we're starting with one. There's day 3, day 4. I know we're on day 10 because I just went through and counted it up on my calendar before I got here. But that part of it, that detail is not the most important thing. It's a cool thing to be able to think about, but it also keeps me on track as I'm thinking like I'm moving towards Pentecost and I want God to change me every day. But I'm also not freaking out about like, am I really marking it all off? And so that's how I'm viewing it for my own life. And so that's how I want you to be able to view it for your own life. If it's helpful for you to do it, then awesome. Amen. Do it and let it move you and change you. But if you're feeling stressed by it, first you got to figure out, what is the stress because I don't like being uncomfortable, or is it because I actually have too many things going on and I just need to focus on this right now? And God will lead you through that and he'll help you to know what to do. So I just wanted to be sure that I was able to communicate that my heart for all of you is I want joy and progress in the faith. And so the things that we're doing are to try to help us move that way. So hopefully that helps as we've kind of gone through that. Anything you want to add to that?
No?
Great. Okay.
Great.
Wow. Thank you. All right. So with that, I'm going to move on and wanted to talk about a few things tonight. I know it's almost 7:40, but this is not going to go long. I promise you. So, this Sunday, we talked about the women coming to the tomb and that they were afraid yet filled with joy. And just that idea of, sometimes we can feel fear and there's things going on that cause us to feel fear. And fear is it's a daily part of our lives. If it were not such a daily part of our lives, there would not be so many instructions in the Bible to not be afraid. But it's all over the Bible. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, because fear is something that we're going to deal with on a daily basis. So as we're navigating our fear and as we are choosing faith over fear, and as we're doing it, we can at the same time still be filled with joy. And so as we were talking about that on Sunday, then Tracy and I have been talking even more just about this moment where Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb. And in the Gospel of John, she has this encounter with Jesus, which is just so moving. And by the way, quick side conversation here. If you haven't been watching The Chosen, you've got to watch The Chosen. I think episode 2, season 2 comes out tonight, and I'm so excited about it. But The Chosen it's just been so rich for my faith to be able to see some of these, see Jesus and these stories that I've read so many times kind of, brought to life, but just see the heart of it. I mean, I cry at every single episode, just moved by the love of God and the love of Jesus, and how the disciples must have felt, and Nicodemus and all this. But Mary Magdalene is a central part of, of that whole story. And so it's really special to try to imagine the relationship that she had with Jesus. And I love being able to see that, in that. But as we look in the book of John, you've got this story right here. And let's look at this. It says, now Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. And they asked her, woman, why are you crying? They've taken my Lord away, she said, and I don't know where they've put him. And at this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. And he asked her, woman, why are you crying? Who is it that you're looking for? And thinking that he was the gardener, she said, sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him. And then Jesus said to her, Mary. And so let me just, if you try to imagine this moment, here's Mary feeling so much loss and feeling so much grief. And she's going to the tomb early in the morning. She wants to, anoint Jesus's body. She gets there with the women, and then the stone is rolled back. She's not sure what's going on. The body is gone. Her heart is broken. She misses her friend, her Savior, her Lord. She misses him. She just wants to be with him. And there's so much grief and sadness that is enveloping her that even when she sees Jesus, she does not recognize him. And I think that can happen to us when we are in fear, when we are in grief, when we are overcome with sadness or stress or frustration. We do not see things clearly. And even when God is right there, and even when God's miracles are so evident to us, and even when God has made himself really clear, it is hard for us to see, because we're basically blinded by our own tears. We're blinded by our own fear. We're blinded by our own grief and sorrow. And so Jesus says, why are you crying? And I don't think, I kept reading it today, looking at like, was he, the angels ask her, hey, why are you crying? And I wonder what tone they had with her. Was it they're here because Jesus is alive. They came back and rolled back the tomb so he could get out. And they're like, dude, what's up? Why would you be crying? Jesus is alive. Was it that kind of tone? Or was it a more compassionate, like, oh man, why are you crying? But I think when Jesus comes to her, actually, let me see if I can back up. He asked her, woman, why are you crying? Who is it that you are looking for? And I just imagine so much love and compassion and just patience that Jesus had for Mary in this moment, knowing that she's heartbroken, knowing that she's not able to see clearly. And he says, who is it that you're looking for? And she says, man, just where's Jesus? Where did you put him? I will go and get him. But then he says to her, Mary. He says one word. He calls her by her name. And in that moment, the grief parted, the sorrow stopped, and she was able to all of a sudden see him and see that it was Jesus. The Bible says that she turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, Rabboni, which means teacher. And so it was like this. And Tracy and I were talking about why did John feel the need to put it in Aramaic, and then put the translation in there. And it's, sometimes you speak from, when you're speaking from the heart, you speak from the language that just makes the most sense, and it's just your heart crying out. And I know my friends who are bilingual and whose Spanish is their first language, when we pray together, they want to pray in Spanish because it's the way that their heart can communicate and connect. And I think that's what was happening in this moment is Mary was like, oh, my teacher is here. And but it was her name. It was when Jesus cuts through the noise and he cuts through the sound and reminds her not of who he is, but of who she is to him. And she, he's like, Mary, it's me. And she was like, oh yeah, it's Jesus. And so this story was help we've been talking about a lot, because as we deal with fear, and as we've been talking the last few days about being afraid yet full of joy, and as we deal with fear and as we go through challenges every day in our life, these are things that are going to come up for us. And you look at John 10 verse 10, where Jesus, talking about our enemy, says that the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And so this is, Jesus gives us this great example here where he's like, this is what the thief comes to do. This is what Satan comes to do. He wants to steal and kill and destroy. But Jesus offers something different. Satan wants to take away, but Jesus wants to give. Satan wants to destroy things, but Jesus wants to rebuild them and bring them back. And as we think about the resurrection, that is what Jesus is trying to do. He's redeeming all of these things that are broken and lost, and he wants to bring them back to life. And you have things in your life that are broken and lost, and you may think, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this back. I have things that I can think of. I'm like, how is that ever going to be fixed or healed? But it's the power of the resurrection that gives me some hope that, you know what, Jesus can do this. I don't know how he's going to do it exactly, but I know he can do it. I'm sure that Mary in this moment she didn't understand how he had come back to life, but she knew that he had. And when I look at some of the things that are going on in my life, some of the challenges that I'm dealing with, the things that I feel fear about, I don't know how God is going to fix it, but I know that he can. He brought Jesus out of that tomb, and he can fix this for me. So here's a couple things to do when you're feeling fear, when you feel that fear rising up, when you feel triggered and your amygdala is just going at 1 billion miles an hour. Number one, you just acknowledge it. Now, you just kind of admit, like, okay, I just got really irritated. I can always kind of tell because my chest gets tight, my stomach kind of starts to burn, and I can't breathe really well. And so when I'm feeling that moment, it's good just to be able to acknowledge it and go, okay, I am not really doing well right now.
Physiological response.
Yeah.
It's like acknowledging the physiological things that are happening. So, I know my shoulders go up because I'm tensing up. My breathing becomes shallow. And I think it's so important just to acknowledge it from the physiological standpoint, because it's not something you're not like failing spiritually right now. It's just that your body is responding, your body is reacting as a warning sign. So you can use all of those physiological responses just as a warning sign of wait. Okay, hang on a second. I'm triggered by something. And so acknowledging it would be, the first step. And it takes about, it takes 20 minutes for the amygdala to calm down. So I don't know if that's the next part.
No,
I kind of went on. I think I went on. Oh yeah. Okay. So then the next part is something that will help so that you can go, okay, wait, because you can't think straight. Mm-hmm. When the amygdala is fired up, you are going to be, it's like a fog, and, you're kind of like deaf to anything but the sound of your own pain, or you can't see, you can't tell friend from foe. You can't, like she's looking at angels and Jesus, and she's still, she can't even identify it. And I know that we can get that way. So you have to go, okay, how can I get this to calm down for a second so that I can think straight again? So some things that you can do are, you can change your environment, walk outside. That's what I have to do a lot, because I don't know, somehow being around nature just helps me to remember that God is in control. He is good. Jesus is still Lord. Everything's going to be okay. All will be well. I just have to change it, or maybe put on worship music, like a real, not just background music, but like put on your headphones, get alone, get on your knees, listen to, a Maverick music thing or Bethel. Those are usually about 10 minutes, and watch the words go by, pray them, really experience it. You can drink, I've heard Lisa Turker said you can drink 4 ounces of water, helps you to calm. Or you can do breathing, like your deep breathing, breath prayer, breathing exercises, just to get your amygdala to calm down, so that you can think clearly again, and the PFC takes over. And
Yeah. And actually, let me go on a little tangent here. This thing about worship music. It's been so long since most of us have been able to worship together, and our Good Friday event was great, being able to do that for those of you who were there. But I do believe that musical worship is so important for us. I do it myself on a regular basis, and I just want to encourage you to do the same thing. It's not just having it on in the background, like Tracy said, but actually sitting down and listening to a song and allowing your heart to connect with God and how awesome He is. So even if you take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just stop everything else, sit on your couch and find some songs that you like that really help you and connect. I was listening to one today, Phil Wickham's new song, "The Battle Belongs to You." It's so good. And yeah, really, really, really good. So yeah, find some songs like that, change your environment. I would just also recommend, when you find yourself in the throes of frustration or fear or anger, that's never a good time to make decisions. And it's never a good time to send an email or send a text.
Don't post.
Or
For
post.
sure.
For the love of all that is holy, do not post
Just
on social
don't do
media when
anything
your
with your
emotions
phone.
are high, right?
Yeah.
Wait at least 24 hours and then
And don't
you
make
can
big
do that.
decisions. Don't make any decisions that are going to last longer than 20 minutes.
So acknowledge it, change your environment, and then give yourself a lot of grace.
Yeah.
We have an enemy. We have someone that is actively working against us and trying to undermine us every day, all the time, in every way. And we're not always going to do things perfectly. And so you have to just kind of trust that, God is going to help me work through this, and God is going to help me deal with it. And, so you got to allow yourself to have challenges and problems, and you got to allow yourself some mistakes sometime, and give yourself a lot of grace, because you will be able to move through this, because it's the power of the resurrection that does, bring us through and make it work.
Yeah. And the way I think about it is like, I can have a bad 20 minutes. I can have a bad day. I can even have a bad year. It doesn't mean I have a bad life.
Right.
It's not your whole life. And sometimes you could just have a little pocket of your life. Like you're actually doing pretty well. But when this little particular pocket gets triggered and comes back up again, Satan wants us to feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Like you're a failure. You haven't, in my case, I'm working on forgiveness. So, you're a forgiveness failure, but it could be something else that you're working on. You blew it again with your kids, or you did something, that you vow, I'm not going to do this, these 50 days, I'm not going to do it. But, giving yourself grace just says, I am not a failure because of this one thing.
Right.
And I don't have to spiral all the way down into self-pity.
Amen. So Satan came to steal, kill, and destroy. And if you're feeling those things, then okay, you're going in the wrong direction. So Jesus came to restore things. So Satan's going to steal it. Jesus will restore things to us. Satan wants to kill what is good, but through Jesus we are reborn. Satan wants to destroy, but Jesus renews all things. And so this is, as we bask in the miracle of the resurrection, as we celebrate the greatest thing that has ever happened, and we see the personification of God, not just God's love for us, but His incredible power to overcome evil. then let these things draw you upward to where you're not lost in the fear of what's going on around you, but you're able to lift your eyes and look to how awesome God is and let him change you. So with that, I'm going to stop the share. And there we are. So that is our little thought for you tonight. You can be afraid yet filled with joy, and you can go through this week looking to God, listening for his voice, listening for your name through the noise of everything that is happening. Amen.